For decades, the moon has been hiding secrets, unexplained structures, strange lights, and bizarre signals picked up by NASA. Now, new files reveal mysteries even the space agency can't explain. What's really going on up there? July 19, 1969. As Apollo 11 makes its final approach to the moon, mysterious lights appear, dazzling the astronauts. Even the harshest critic discovered in fact this was real. They actually did see something. NASA thinks it's moon debris. There had to be something else. It really is a mystery. Is there something there they don't want the public to know? Music. Just hours before NASA astronauts take man's first steps on the moon, astronomers in Germany report a strange light coming from the Aristarchus crater. Follow 11. This is Houston. Go ahead. Mission Control immediately asked the astronauts to investigate. There have been some lunar transient events reported in the vicinity of Eris. Over. Okay, Houston. I'm looking north up toward Aristarchus. Now, take a look and see if you see anything worth noting up there. Over. What Apollo 11 sees defies explanation. There's an area there that is considerably more illuminated than the surrounding. The Apollo astronauts see this glow in this crater. 11 is Houston. Can you discern any difference in color of the illumination? No, it doesn't appear to be any color involved in it. They're having this conversation back and forth with Capcom, and they mention it. Suddenly, there's interference. There's static. Then there's silence. The live mission broadcast disappears for 8,910 seconds. Is NASA deliberately cutting out a public feed because they didn't want us to know that something is on the moon that shouldn't? NASA astronaut Charles Duke doesn't think so. He was part of the shift at Mission Control in the hours immediately following the incident. Can you give us a status report, please? I was the only guy talking to them for 8 hours till we landed on the moon. I don't remember any big discussion about transients. Is there something there they don't want the public to know? It's an issue that's fascinated lunar scientist Peter Schultz for decades. I saw something on the moon many years, 40, 50 years ago, and realized it's very dangerous to publish anything about this. It was terribly controversial. Could ruin a career. NASA calls these sightings transient lunar phenomena, TLP for short. TLP could be something other than natural. There are a lot of transient events on the moon, but I can't comment specifically. Sometimes it's on, sometimes it's off, and if it's artificial, that would belly all the stories about the moon being a dead celestial body. NASA's official position is that Aristarchus glistens because it contains reflective dust. But Peter Schultz claims the sun wasn't in the right place to reflect off the crater when Apollo 11 saw it. Aristarchus was in the nighttime when the astronauts from Apollo 11 went over it. So, it can't be a glint off the sun. It had to be something else. It really is a mystery. Solar glint remains NASA's official explanation, although not everyone agrees. Music. People were fired because of people trying to look for those transient phenomena. Amazing. So, all these reports, all these astronomers who said they saw something and nobody believed them, they were probably right. Aristarchus was the first of many sightings that make moon watchers think there's more to our nearest neighbor than meets the eye. Even today, there are people who think that there might be artifacts on the moon, things left by societies. I mean, think of the movie 2001. There's a big monolith on the moon. Earth's moon may still hide secrets, but Mars's largest moon might itself be the biggest mystery in the solar system. The data that we retrieved from Phobos makes it seem as though Phobos is hollow. There have been thoughts that it might be the remnants of a huge space station. If that were true, holy cow, that changes everything. Small, fast, and impossibly low, Phobos streaks just 5,800 miles above the surface of Mars, and its orbit is shrinking. Astronomers calculate that Phobos will collide with the planet in the next 10 million years, a blink of an eye in astronomical time. And that poses some difficult questions. In astronomy, you have something will only last for 10 million years. It's not from the formation of the solar system. It's something more recent. How do you get that more recent thing? How did Phobos get captured into an orbit around Mars? In 1958, Russian astrophysicist Isevsky asked the same thing. When he measured the orbital velocity of Phobos, he made an astonishing discovery. To his surprise, the moon changes speed. But there was more. It was his investigation, his research into Phobos that suggested the idea that Phobos was hollow. And that is so tantalizing for experts at NASA that's really one of the reasons we were driven to Mars, just to explore the possibility that Mars had a hollow moon. Because if Phobos is hollow, that opens up a whole new set of possibilities. If indeed it's hollow, that certainly means somebody put it up. Why would you even want to build a hollow moon in Mars orbit anyway? A refueling station, a jumping-off point. If I were involved in setting priorities for NASA, I would be interested in Phobos too. NASA's budget, a lot of that budget is a black budget. It's a secret budget. It's doing missions for the military and doing missions for the intelligence agency. But maybe, just maybe, one of those missions has to be to explore celestial bodies, moons that are actually hollow on the inside. Whoever gets to Phobos first may stand to win points with whatever intelligence put it up. Landing on Phobos is a massive technological hurdle that no human agency has so far managed to jump. Interesting that every time we try to send something to Phobos, it fails for some reason. Maybe something's stopping us from getting there. Perhaps our first successful mission to Phobos will signify a major milestone for humankind and anyone else who's watching. But astronomer J.J. Cavaliers is not convinced that Phobos is artificial. When we do spectroscopy of Phobos' surface, we see that it's made from the same sort of thing as the asteroids are made from. So, this gives a pretty good indication of where it's coming from. If it was a more exotic material, you would detect that. If Phobos is an asteroid, how can it be hollow? Phobos is basically made up of a bunch of boulders and loosely aggregated dust. And so there's lots of voids, space between the rocks. And so the density of the object itself is really quite low compared to the rocks that it's made from. NASA believes that over billions of years, the pull of gravity has drawn bits of orbital debris together. Phobos is just a big pile of rocks. Definitely not a space station. Phobos is not a space station, but that doesn't mean that Phobos can't become a great space station. It is perfectly located to be the base from which we can explore Mars, possibly occupy Mars. If Phobos isn't a space station yet, don't worry, it will be. Something appears to be shadowing the astronauts of the Apollo 17 mission. You see this very thin, a rectangular image that's kind of hovering, seemingly almost flying. Is it something watching the astronauts? We got the pull out. What is this thing that's flying above the lunar landscape? Was this a warning? Stay off the moon. It's not yours. It's ours. This got to be one of the most proud moments of my life. I guarantee you. December 14th, 1972. Apollo 17 astronauts Eugene Cernan and Jack Schmitt are planting explosives on the moon. The astronauts set up a network of seismometers on the lunar surface, and these impacts would give you clues to the interior of the moon. The explosives are part of a geological experiment which will profile the upper crust of the moon. Before the astronauts leave, Cernan takes some last-minute photographs. Years later, one of the photographs catches the attention of astronomer Jim Scotty. So, I'm looking at these images and I see the mostly black sky, but I see a little streak up in the top part of the image. I start thinking about what sort of natural phenomena or man-made phenomena we're actually seeing in the sky. What is this strange, small, rectangular shape that we're seeing flying above the lunar surface? Is it some kind of craft, or what else could it be? Is there something out there watching us while we're walking on the lunar surface? When I see something that I can't quite recognize right away, you can sort of take the scientific approach, or you can jump to conclusions. And I prefer the scientific approach. I look at the print, the higher resolution print, and I can see the shape, and it gives me an idea. Okay, Bob, I've got my tools of the trade right here. Scotty thinks the solution lies with Jack Schmitt. NASA picked him for the Apollo 17 crew because of his background as a geologist. Let's see if I can't crack the corner and get that contact. Jack Schmitt was the first scientist astronaut to walk on the moon. The only geologist, even today, has ever walked on the moon. It's obviously very cohesive. We need to know a great deal more about the variation of the concentration of different minerals. They want to know in detail, where's the good stuff? I can see it from here. It's orange. Jack, that is really orange. The astronauts spot telltale signs of titanium and other exotic minerals. They are eager to continue their survey. There isn't enough time, Tony. We need more time. They got to leave at a certain time regardless of what we got. Running low on oxygen, they must end the spacesuit walk. Just before they head back to the module, Cernan asks the mission's geologist an odd question. Gene Cernan says, "Can I throw the hammer? Are we done with it?" "Let me throw the hammer." Jack says, Can I throw the hammer? I'm the geologist. You're a geologist. You got to be able to. You ready? Go ahead. Music. Scotty thinks this conversation is the key to unlocking the mystery of the anomaly in Cernun's photographs. Most likely these 3 images were taken by Gene Cernan, who was carrying a camera with black and white film, and it's very consistent with him taking some images of the hammer in flight. Mystery solved. This closes a golden chapter in the age of space exploration. Mankind never returned to the moon. The Apollo 12 mission ends with humanity's first deliberate spaceship crash. We jettisoned the lunar module. It impacted the moon at just the right spot, and the scientists monitoring the impact get the surprise of their lives. This is weird. It doesn't make sense. It's ringing like a bell. Once you go down the path of a hollow moon, everything is on the table. Stepping out from the lunar module, Apollo 12 astronauts Pete Conrad and Alan Bean become the 3rd and 4th members of humanity to set foot on another world. This is amazing. This is science fiction, except you're living it. We knew we'd been set there for a job. So, I looked at the cuff checklist and see what was to do next. One of the mission's primary objectives is an experiment to reveal the moon's geological makeup. In 1959, U.S. Army General Arthur Trudeau proposed Project Horizon, a plan to establish a U.S. military lunar base, warning that if the Soviets positioned missiles on the moon, they could devastate the United States. He likened its importance to the Manhattan Project, asserting the base could be operational by 1966, but Congress ultimately declined funding, and the project was shelved, at least officially. While NASA wrapped up its Apollo missions, the U.S. military constructed pyramid-shaped missile facilities on Earth, such as North Dakota's Nakoma site, raising questions about whether such designs were ever tested or transferred to the moon. Though the Apollo 17 pyramid photo fueled conspiracy theories, further analysis showed it was a shadow on the lunar rover. Still, the idea of a lunar military base endured, and NASA revisited permanent moon outpost plans in 2015 with a target date of 2030. Back in 1969, NASA prepared meticulously for the Apollo 11 mission, demanding 99.9% reliability on every component. Yet fears of failure loomed, with astronauts privately doubting their safe return. A secret contingency speech by President Nixon's speechwriter William Safire acknowledged that Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin might perish, stranded forever on the moon. This grim outcome nearly happened as Armstrong had to manually override the landing system to avoid boulders, burning precious fuel and bringing the mission within seconds of abort. With only about 60 seconds of fuel left, Armstrong successfully landed the lunar module, fulfilling Kennedy's vision and etching Apollo 11 into history as both a technical triumph and a narrow escape from disaster. Hit that subscribe button, share your thoughts below, and let's keep exploring the together. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next.